Well, hey guys, Shanna Kramer here with Creatively Uncorked, and today we're going to paint the Thanksgiving fox. This one we're going to be painting with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint, if you haven't used it lately, it dries very quickly and it dries permanently, so great for your canvas, bad for your brushes. If it dries in your brushes, they're ruined, so be sure to keep those brushes in your water cup until you're ready to wash them with soap and water. Colors I have today are white, yellow, orange, red, turquoise, and black. This is my reference photo of the fox. This is another AI image that needs improvement, so we are going to improve it today. That is our job. All right, so I've started out pre-sketching this, and go ahead and start on some of our background here. I just have a couple of small brushes, and I think that's all we need. First thing I want to do, though, I think, is just some of these eyes, because we know that it's going to be a lot cuter than this. What the heck? So we'll do some half circles there. We'll have some highlights. We'll put some nice bright orange eyes, yellow eyes, brown eyes. What color do we want our eyes? Do we want our fox to have? Well, we'll figure it out. Okay, I also have my cup of water, which is what we're using to blend paint today. So I'll just go ahead and dunk my brush in the water. I think those eyes are looking a little weird now. Oh well, we'll figure it out. Okay, I'm going to start with the darkest parts first. So I'll start with some red, maybe a touch of orange I'll mix in with that. A little bit of red, and I'll start up here with the ear. Now this is not all going to be orange or red. A little bit more color. And I'm just mixing a small amount of water in with my paint just to keep it flowing. And if you're blending colors, you definitely want to do that while your paint is wet, because it's the only way you can get a true blend. You can do a faux blend, and there's nothing wrong with that. Faux blend meaning you just dry brush over it, over dry paint, and it's going to, from a distance, look like it's blended. But for this part, we're going to paint wet into wet, and it's going to be a true blend. So here I'm just taking some red and orange. Oh, I'll pick up red on one side of the brush, orange on the other. I want a little more variety, a little more variation than this. Maybe that's where the yellow comes in. Okay, so now I'm following the direction of the fur when I'm making these smaller brush strokes. And I'm just blending one color into the next. So while I'm picking up yellow in my brush and blending it up to the orange, up to and even slightly over, and that'll pick up a little bit of orange on my brush, and it gets those colors to blend. And the blend, especially on the fox's fur, that's just it'll help it just look a lot nicer. Very professional. Okay, we'll keep some light color under those eyes. Both sides. Got a lot of orange on that brush, so I'll just add it to the body here. All right, and I'll take that darker color, the darker red, and I'll put that down on the cheeks. A little darker. You can see how it's blending, and maybe we don't want it to blend quite so much there, so I'll just add a little bit more red, keep it dark. Same thing on the other side. Right, now above the eyes, we'll get a little bit darker above the eyes. There we go. Wipe that extra paint off, pick up a little more red, back to the eyes. Okay, now let's finish off that nose. We'll take some dark, the darker red. Probably don't want to go down quite that far. The tip of the nose will be white, so if we stop about there, that'll be good. A little bit of orange and a little bit of yellow. All right, fox is starting to take on a little bit of character. Okay, I'll just go ahead and rinse that brush a little bit. And we'll keep right on going. I'll take a little bit of black, and that will go in the ears. We'll add a little bit of white around this too, but we just first want to get some depth into those ears. All right. And the nose, we have that little spot on the top that's going to be a lighter gray. Otherwise, the rest will be black. And this might be a good time to switch to a smaller brush. So when you're done with your brush, wipe the extra paint off of it, put it in your water cup, and leave it there until you're done with your painting. And then you can go wash all of your brushes at the same time. With soap and water, of course. Otherwise, your brushes are going to be ruined forever. Taking a little bit of black and a small pointed brush. And we're back on that nose. Let's see, we'll get the black parts of the eyes. We'll do a little bit of black on the insides, just right around that eyeliner, because of course the fox has eyeliner. Just making it thinner around where the eye actually is. Or cornea, maybe I should say. We'll get this filled in. And I don't want to fill in the color quite yet, because I haven't decided what color it's going to be. Maybe orange, maybe brown. Maybe purple, maybe blue. All right. Moving on. I'll make this a little bigger, I think. There. Okay. Move on. I can make adjustments later if I need to. All right. I'm just going to pick up a very similar brush. The only difference is this one hasn't been used yet. So I'm just going to pick up some white paint. Is that dry enough? I guess so. Want to make sure we're bringing back that white snout. Okay. Nope. Not going to keep messing with it. All right, now that nose, the reflection on the nose is a gray. So I'm just taking a little bit of white, a little bit of black, because we don't want to leave that too bright on his nose. All right. So now it's time to work on that background. The foxes, all the paint on the fox itself right now is too wet to mess around with at all. So we're just going to move on to the background. Follow that one eye. See if I can, there. Get the eyeliner a little bit heavier. Okay. All right, now I'm going to leave that alone for a few minutes anyway. And I'm going back to the larger brush. This is my, I'll call it a medium filbert. It's about a 1/2 inch filbert. They're round on the top, flat on the side. Actually, any brush that you have, if you have a flat brush, a round brush, any brush that you have is probably going to be just fine. Now, I am going to take some turquoise because it's my favorite color. That's it, that's all, no other reason. And just that's going to be my background. Depending on how much time we want to spend on this, we can add our leaves in the background, and I might do that. But in the meantime, I do know that I want this contrast with the turquoise and the white. The turquoise and the orange are opposite on the color wheel, so the colors will set each other off beautifully. Oh, yep. Hi, thanks for the comments. Do ask questions if you have any. I'm just now looking up. Yes, this is acrylic paint that I'm using today. So acrylic paint, we can use it with water. You can mix it with acrylic mediums, which that's what water is. So yeah, I'm just using water with mine. And it is the Thanksgiving fox, because who wouldn't have a Thanksgiving fox? A little more turquoise, a little more white. And by the time we're done with this background, then the paint on the face should be dry enough that we can add the rest of our details there. And I'm doing kind of a little painterly look here. I like the look of brush strokes and paint. I mean, that's why I like to paint, one of the reasons. But I do like it to look like a painting. One of those reasons is if we mess up and need to make some changes to the background, it's a lot easier to take white and turquoise and mix them together and just kind of brush them on over spots of the background than to try to come up with exactly the same shade of turquoise and white solid color if you're mixing a solid color for your background. Because if you're ever trying to match a color, a dry color with wet paint, it's not going to match because acrylic paint dries darker, and so if you're putting a new paint on a dry paint and it matches perfectly, it's going to be wrong when it dries. So keep it keep it painterly, keep it brush strokey, and then it's really easy to hide any mistakes if you have to make any changes later. And because it looks cool. Could you use gouache for this? You absolutely could use gouache. And the method to using gouache is going to be actually more similar to acrylic than it is to watercolor. So yeah, use gouache. And for anybody that doesn't know, gouache is like an opaque watercolor. As in you can mix it with water. You can, there are two different kinds. The designer's gouache, you can re-wet it, just like watercolor, and keep working with it. However, there's an acrylic gouache that's basically acrylic paint, but with a matte finish. And that you can't re-wet it, you can't reuse it. It dries and it's done. Just using some of this background color here for shadow, a little bit of shadow under the chin. And before I get too overboard on that, then I'll just wipe off the brush, pick up a little bit of white, and start adding in my fur. Now with this turquoise shadow under the chin being wet, it should blend nicely with my white paint. Furry little guy. I haven't seen a red fox in real life until just the last couple of years. Like this last summer, I saw two of them. They're actually a lot bigger than I expected them to be. They are actually dog size. Like the red foxes are bigger than I've seen some smaller foxes, but the red foxes are pretty big. Okay, how's that? Enough white? Might add more later. That's okay. Okay, so now I want to make sure that my little face here is filled in. So he's got the chin. And I'll come back with black over the top of that and draw in the face pieces again. All right, a little more here on the ears. I'm taking just big globs of white paint and just kind of dropping it on there on the ears. Woo! And then I'm dropping my brush on the whole painting. And yes, that does happen every time. In case you haven't painted with me before. Now you know what to expect. And black is still wet, so I don't want to mess with that too much. That black, again, still wet, so a little bit more. Here we go. And generally, I'll say wait for this to dry before painting over it, but if you have to paint over it when it's wet, the trick is to use more paint over the top of whatever's on there, whatever's on your canvas right now. So, see, sticks just fine. You're just laying down larger blobs of paint. Okay, I think it's about time to go back to the black. Maybe. Yeah, what the heck. All right, so back to one of my small brushes with black paint. And I kind of want to do this where it's a little bit more shadow. Let's see here. Wipe that off because it's picking up more wet paint. Just gonna go right along the little nose, top lip. Bottom lip. I don't really like drawing the outlines around things like this. It sort of makes them look a little cartoony, but actually this is kind of a cartoony fox, so I guess that's okay. A little bit of gray, mix it with a little bit of red. Let's see what happens. A little bit more water. Let's see, is this adding to it or taking from it? I don't know. I kind of like that little kind of a furry look. Just make them a little more white. I'm not too sure about that black line on this side, but I can lighten it up. Yeah, I like that better. I don't mind there being a dark shadow kind of in between, but I don't want it to look like a line. So I'll just go back and get more white over that. And as long as I've got this kind of a medium color, it's more of a gray. I mixed black and white gray and added a little bit of red to it just to kind of get it to blend in with the fox a little bit. And that's the color I'm using now between the white and the black. Just get a little bit of a kind of a blend going, or at least some depth in the white. Okay, what do you think of those eyes? What color do you want to see them? I think, let's see, could we do yellow? Could we do yellow fox eyes? Let's give it a try. Okay, so I'm just taking a skinny brush, big glob of yellow paint, if you can see that. And now this time I'm trying to keep my hands out of the wet paint, so I'm just doing a fist on the table, resting my wrist on the other arm. And okay, I'm not promising this is going to work. I'm just testing it. I don't know. What do you think? I don't mind it. Yellow fox eyes it is. Hmm, okay. And let's take a little bit of a darker color. I don't know if we want to put red in those eyes. What do you think? Ooh, what if I put blue in those eyes? Okay, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go and think about it for a minute. And let's get back to those whiskers. This guy's got some big old whiskers. So I'm just thinning out my black, a little bit of water, and I still have my round brush here. So let's see, barely touching. Oh, maybe if I hold my brush way out on the end, that's a good thing to do to have less control. Why would you ever want less control? So you can get more random brush strokes. Okay, thin out the black again. This time I'm going to try doing it upside down. Trying to switch back and forth from right hand to left hand, but you know, your arms will only move a certain way, and so it's okay to rotate your canvas to get the best brush stroke you can. Okay, Mr. Fox, you are certainly a cartoony one. Well, what the heck? We might as well just go all out cartoony with it. I'll just take a little more red. We're going to add a little chunky details. So thinning out my red with a little bit of water. I'm just adding just a couple of little, like shadows, kind of shadows. Nope. A little more red, a little less water. There we go. Now we're leaving the colors unblended entirely, and that just bolds everything up quite a bit. Even right down here on the fox body. Okay. All right, I'll let that go. Seriously, for real? And what do you think? Should we go ahead and add some stuff to the background? Actually, one more thing I want to do is I do want to add a little bit of orange to those eyes. A little tiny bit, just to the very outside. Hmm. Okay. Letting it go again. Okay, did you decide on those leaves? Are we making leaves? Because we can if you want. Let's see, I want to dull them down a little, so back to my turquoise. Okay, I'll go with that filbert brush again. And let's see here. If I take a little yellow, little orange, teeny tiny little dot of turquoise, and the turquoise is just to kill it down. That's just to dull it down. That's it. Okay, because we don't want our super bright leaves competing with our fox. So now we have kind of a dullish, yellowish kind of a color. Just kind of a rough edge leaf, just falling off the edge there. I think I'll put another one of those. They're all going to be pointing to the fox. A little more of that yellow. And what do you think if we have enough for one more of those? Just a little small one. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next color. We'll just take a slightly darker orange. More blue or more black? Let's try a little more blue. That's a nice dull orange. I don't want it to look too much the same color though. I'll try a little black anyway. Orange and black, by the way, make brown. Let's make it darker yet. Black, a little more orange. And so we just have general colors here. We just have the basic colors and the basic shapes. We can add a little more details, a little bit later on, but let's see. For now, we'll just start with this one might be too bright. We might have to dull the color. It's almost pure orange. Hardly at all dirtied up with any other colors. Is that enough leaves? One more. One more. What the heck? Okay. How's that? Looking leafy? Okay. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of turquoise here. Tiny bit, tiny bit of white in that. All right. Oh, nope, that was too much white. More turquoise. So I want it to be darker. I want it to be to kind of set off the fox because he's got the white fur. Right, and we'll fix this little part here where I dropped the brush. There we are. It's good to know how to fix your painting mistakes because they're going to happen every time. Sorry, that didn't sound very encouraging, did it? Uh, it's good to know how to fix mistakes in case somebody walks past you and bumps your arm while you're painting. Yeah. All right, on to those leaves. Let's see, what else can we do with those? Going back to my skinny brush, and this time I'll take thin, thin, thin white. So I've watered it down. I've got a little water in the brush, thinning out my white. And let's see here. Let's start with this one. So barely touching the canvas again, just quickly dragging the brush. That's kind of a, it's like, I wonder if I have a thinner brush. Maybe. Also, if you have a bigger canvas, that'll help your brush strokes look smaller too, even when they're not. At any rate, you do have to thin the paint because if you don't thin the paint, you can only get big globs instead of little tiny skinny lines. What do you think? Is white working? Should we switch out to another color? Like what? Hmm, not black. Nope, I guess we'll go with white. Just a couple of light brush strokes and then I'll be done with it. Okay. Clean that brush again. That fox should be staring into my soul, and he's not. So let's fix it. Okay. So I'm going to do the black around the eyes again. Back to that eyeliner. Okay. And here's back to our reference. So, ours is still better. And let's see. Rinse in the brush again. And this time I'm going to take white, big glob of white. Big glob. Big dot. Big dot. Okay. Those dots are going to take a long time to dry. That paint is really thick right there. Let's see. What else might we want to do with this fox? The more work we do on the background, the more it'll take away the attention from the fox. So we'll just get to the background to a point where we can live with it and leave it like that. So the question is, can we live with the background or do we need to change it? Let's see. I don't want to change it too much. I just want to test one thing and see what happens. Get that paper towel out of the way. I'm thinking just a little bit of a shadow. And if it's the same color, maybe it won't stand out too much. So if we do a turquoise shadow, give it a little bit more of a graphic look, which I think is okay because it's already cartoon looking. So adding a little bit of a sassy graphic look to it, I think is not going to be a bad thing. Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah. Always been a fan of the big chunky graphic look. That's not really my style, but I do like the way it looks. How about that? I mean, we've already got everything pointing to the fox because he's the star of the show. All right, I think I just want a little bit more red. I swear I'm not going to go overboard. Okay, I don't swear. I'm probably already gone overboard. It's fun. I'll take a little bit more red because I just want to punch up the definition here on the face. I know we did this with red once, but it's probably might take something a little more extreme. Maybe we do a combination of red and turquoise, which should give us a nice purpley color. There. So that's the next step of darkness, so we don't have to keep adding thick red. Yeah, kind of like that purple. Sticking my hand on the way there. Sorry about that. How's that? Enough definition? A couple of little furs. Okay. I think I better stop if I keep going. Hmm. Yep, probably better stop. Okay, I'm calling it. This is it. Thanks for painting along with me. This is the painting of the week for Creatively Uncorked members. And if you're not a member, you can check members.creativelyuncorked live. And there's a new painting every week. Most of them are acrylic, some are watercolor. And I will see you next week. Thanks for painting with me.